This is Steve Harris from Iron Maiden and British Lion. You listen to Andrew McCasebed from Scars and Guitars.
G'day everybody and welcome to another installment of the show. I'm so pleased to bring you a chat with the great Jeremy Wagner from Broken Hope and Earthburner. Now the catalyst for the chat is due to the debut album from Earthburner. It is titled Permanent Dawn, which will see light of day through M Theory Audio on November 8, 2024. We discuss what's going on with the album and indeed the band and go deep into all things Broken Hope. So many classic albums. If you get to check out the band, Swamped in Gore, The Bowels of Repugnance, Repulsive Conception, Loathing, all classic affairs. Get it into you. In my view, Jeremy is he headlines a list of contributors to extreme and heavy metal that really don't get their due. I'm thinking of, in particular, Lee Harrison from Monstrosity. So Jeremy and Lee Harrison from Monstrosity are the two guys. And that's why this is such a great opportunity to talk to Jeremy and to get to the bottom of some things, including that ill-fated tour with Deicide in 2013. So here he is, Jeremy Wagner from Broken Hope and Earthburner.
Hey, how are you?
Good, mate. How you going?
Good.
Thanks for taking the time out to have a chat. Much appreciated. I've got to say, you're one of those. I'm over 1,000 episodes deep now, I've got to say, and you're one of those blokes I've had on the bucket list for some time. So here we are.
Awesome. Well, nice to meet you. Andrew, right?
Spot on. Yeah, spot on.
Cool. Pleasure.
Have
Where
you
in Australia are you? Do you live?
Gold Coast near Brisbane?
Okay, cool. I've got an uncle that's lived there for God, probably 50 plus years now. He's up in Townsville.
Yeah, it's near enough.
Queensland.
Yeah, I'm in Queensland. Yeah, it's near enough to me. Yeah.
And my wife and I got married in Australia too.
Oh, fantastic! In Queensland or elsewhere?
In Queensland. Off of Queensland, a place called Orpheus Island.
Okay.
On the Great Barrier Reef.
Yeah, Whitsunday.
Yeah. We actually flew. We went to Brisbane and we're on the Gold Coast and visited my uncle and my aunt and took a helicopter from Townsville basically to Orpheus Island. So
yeah,
I guess they got the same marriage laws there that they have in the U.S. So my wife wanted to run away and escape. So we went all the way to Australia. So that's where we got married.
Well, you're married. Your marriage is sanctified under Australian law. So that's great, mate. So you're at least part Aussie then.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. My uncle, he's an anthropologist, professor, and he went to college in Chicago, here where my family's from. And when he graduated, he majored in like anthropology and psychology, and he took a ship to from the States to came in through Adelaide, and then he's like back in the day, he's one of from my understanding, he's one of very select few people that were allowed to live with Aborigines.
Okay.
So he did all these like really groundbreaking publications on, Aboriginal life and that kind of thing. It was really interesting. So when I was a kid, he'd come to the States and go to my grandma's farm. My uncle's one of 10 kids, including my mom. And he'd come and visit and do like slideshows of himself with the Aborigines and stuff. And just really, really cool stuff. And then he had a gig for a little while in Darwin, way up north. He was a professor at some university there. So anyway, Australia was always a big part of my life in a way. He'd always give me Australian coins and shit when I was a kid. They got like, looked like Dungeons and Dragons dice with like 20 sides, some of these coins.
50 cent piece. Yeah, the old 50 cent piece.
Yeah. So anyway, pleasure to meet you, man. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for that introduction. Actually, it's great to know that you've had such a long and it seems been such a meaningful association with Australia. So I have to ask the question off the bat. I didn't do any research on this, but have you actually played in Australia yet, though?
No, it's the craziest thing, bro. Like Broken Hope, especially. Um, like in the '90s, all our albums were coming out in Australia.
Mm.
I remember talking to, can't remember the name of the company, but whoever distributed our albums through Metal Blade Records were like, "Oh, you guys are selling lots of albums here," and we'd always get Australian fan mail back when people wrote letters, the old days. But we never had the opportunity. And then the only time I've met Australian fans is like if they'd fly to festivals,
Mm.
in Europe, United States. And we did Japan, God, 2019, maybe, with Immolation. And uh, when we did Japan, and Australian fans found out, they're all pissed off because they're like, why aren't you coming to Australia? You could just fly from Japan. But it's like, I don't know, get a booking agent to book us, we'll do it. But yeah, we just never had the opportunity to this day. Haven't played there properly.
I was going to say, because I spun Loathing not to death, but near to death. You've certainly got a fan base down here, and I'm glad you understand that, and that we have been on the front foot with you. And just to support your point about playing in Japan and then being part of the Asia Pacific Rim, as we are, I know we're still far away from
Yeah,
everything. Malevolent Creation have just gone all through Asia, and
right.
and they're not coming to Australia. So that look, I suppose there's a couple of very very good, very credible booking agents in Australia that I could highly recommend if you're ever interested in looking into that a bit deeper. But there's got to be other reasons. I suppose it's just the cost of flights and freight and all of the bullshit that goes along with having to, when I say bullshit, all of the necessary stuff that has to go.
Right.
Or otherwise you would have been down here, or somebody would have asked you to come down here because there's certainly the demand for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know flying a band and a crew there's that, getting the band crew and all the gear, like you're saying, from the States to Australia. But then once you're in Australia, I know the continent's about the same size as the US, but it's not like you got 50 states. Everything you got to fly, Brisbane to Sydney to, Adelaide, Melbourne, and Perth. That's about it from what I understand. For
That's a
most bands, it's
understanding of
flight
it.
after flight after flight. But
Mm.
but I do it for free just to play Australia. You know.
Yeah. Oh, it'd be great to have you down here. I might next time I talk to Glenn Dyson, Dicey runs Soundworks. I might mention that we've had the chat if that's okay.
Oh,
'Cause-
Soundworks is, I think, who brought us to Japan actually,
yeah,
and that's the funny thing because Immolation had just come off Australia, and then like all these Pacific Rim countries, and
Hmm.
including Japan. And then for whatever reason, we were invited to do open in Japan, so we're like, yeah, let's do it. So yeah, but yeah, we're down. Earthburner's down too, so it'll be
yeah.
one of the two down there. Yeah,
Well, that's
yeah,
that's the inspiration behind the chat. I mean, of course, Broken Hope, and I've got a ton of things to ask you, being a fan of Broken Hope. But I was very,
sure.
I've got to say, I was it was very pleasant to receive an Earthburner release, and I get tons of this sort of stuff, and I do my due diligence on things, and I listen to things, and I thought, wow, this sounds pretty good, and then I read that you were behind it. It's another vehicle for you. So I thought, well, that's not really a surprise given it's quality death metal, and quality extreme metal really is probably the better term these days. So what was the inspiration behind Earthburner?
Earthburner back really it I love grindcore and in '89 I got two albums in one day, and it was Terrorizer World Downfall and Morbid Angel Altars of Madness on CD. And here in the States, when I got those albums, they weren't licensed in the US yet. They were still import CDs. So they're really expensive. I remember that, back in '89, I was like 19 years old, and it was like $30 per CD or something. But I got them on the same day, from this record store right when they came out. Completely blew me away. And like I was familiar with Napalm Death and stuff, but Terrorizer, World Downfall, all the press I've been doing was really a huge influence on me, even in Broken Hope, like blast beats and stuff like that. But Broken Hope's traditionally old school death metal. And I had this real passion for grindcore. And it wasn't until like I had never thought of doing a side project or anything. It was always Broken Hope was my life. And it was after our fifth album, Grotesque Blessings, came out in 1999. We had major lineup changes, and we did a couple tours supporting that album and stuff, but it didn't feel like Broken Hope anymore. Our singer Joe had left, our drummer Ryan was gone. Sean, our bass player from like 84 to 98 was gone. So it's Brian Griffin and me, our other guitar player. So my attitude was like after the last tour we did back then, we're getting close to like 2001 or so. And I'm like, I'm going to do something else and put the brakes on Broken Hope at some point until we got a real lineup, because it's just a revolving door. Touring musicians, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I got this idea to do a grindcore band, and I wrote a song called Earthburner, 2 words, on Grotesque Blessings. I'm like, I'm going to call the band Earthburner, but just 1 word. And it's going to be pure Terrorizer worship, world downfall. Like, I make no bones about it. Like when I was younger, people asked me, what are your influences? And I'd be like, Morbid Angel, Carcass, Napalm Death, Terrorizer, Obituary, blah, 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 when I was like 20. And then as time went on, those are still my influences to this day, but I just kind of found my own way. But with Earthburner, seriously, like Terrorizer, World Downfall, early Napalm Death, really are why I wanted to do it. I want to do something different too than Broken Hope. I didn't want to do like Broken Hope Jr. That's what I tell journalists. I'm like, I wanted to tune down from D standard to B and just really latch onto that extremity of grinding, riffs and blast beats, and then throw in a super heavy riff. My point is just to tear people's heads off, and then it's done. That's the formula. Bam, like short songs. It's like kind of like a Napalm Death, Terrorizer, Slayer Rain and Blood attitude, So that was kind of where my head was at. And so around 2001, I did an interview in a US mag called Metal Maniacs, and they're like, what are you doing now? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I got this side project I'm trying to get off the ground called Earthburner. And then after that, when that magazine came out, people were always asking about Earthburner. So in 2002, when I actually said, okay, Broken Hope is done for now, I started writing all these Earthburner songs, and then just never got off the ground. I had a drummer, myself, I think maybe a vocalist back then, but then it just sort of petered out, and then I did this band called Lupara in the mid 2000s, and we did 1 album and a video. And then after that, the original Broken Hope, like 90s lineup, got together to talk about reforming and doing it with the original lineup. Because over time, more and more people are like, when's Broken Hope coming back? When's Broken Hope coming back? And everyone that was in that lineup heard the same thing. So we all talked about it. We're going to do it. And then Joe, our singer, died in 2010. And after that, I was like, I don't think we're going to be doing Broken Hope. So in 2011, Earthburner, always in the back of my mind, I want to do it. we did a 3-song EP and a video. And then I was on my way. I was going to do just nothing but Earthburner. Our drummer, Mike for Broken Hope, started Earthburner with me in 2011. But 2012 rolled around, and basically all of a sudden all these people fell right into place for Broken Hope to be a band again. And I've been doing Broken Hope from 2012 till now constantly. But last year, we got to the point where we're picking and choosing, slowing down, not touring a lot. When I say picking and choosing, like do a fest here, a few fly dates and stuff, And Mike and I were talking, Mike, our drummer for Broken Hope, who I met because I was doing Earthburner in 2011. We're like, we should really do Earthburner. Let's get back to it, do it. And like within a couple weeks, we had Devin from Sanguisugabog wanting to do vocals, and my son Tyler on bass, and we were in the studio, and bam, we have an album, So it just kind of happened, went from talking about Earthburner to weeks later, it's like we got an album done. And I've been sitting on Earthburner material for a long time, so that's kind of how it happened. I'm really happy it's here.
What was Tyler? I understand you mentioned he's his stepson, and so his family. Was he part of your plans all along, or was it one of those things where he saw what you was doing and then he decided to approach you and ask to be part of it?
It was me watching Tyler, who's like, I always call him an old soul. He just turned 30 last weekend. So since I've known him since he was a kid, he always had a passion for metal, played guitar, played bass. He loves everything from Iron Maiden, is probably his favorite band of all time, but he loves, Carcass, Morbid Angel, Napalm Death, everything. In fact, and he turned me on the bands I never heard of. He's the one who turned me on to Sanguisugabog and 200 Stab Wounds and stuff before they even had albums out. So he had Tyler some years back, like 2017, formed a grindcore band called Glory Hole Guillotine. And they're really freaking, really good. And it's funny, we're laughing about that because I remember here in the States, we had Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner once, and his grandma said, "Oh, Tyler, what are you doing? Are you in a band?" And I'm just sitting at the table, like, "Don't tell her the name. Don't say Glory Hole Guillotine." And I'm like, I don't know if my mother-in-law would know what a glory hole is, but I'm like, it's called GHG.
Nice.
And anyway, though, he was really a great bass player, and he loved same music I did. So that actually happened organically. Like when Mike and I started talking last year, we should do Earthburner. It was like, are we going to get on bass immediately? I'm like, Tyler's got to play bass. He's super sick bass player. He's into grindcore so freaking much. Deterioration or deteriorated, ass suck, crippled bastards, napalm death, on and on. And so that was easy. And then it was Tyler, who was friends with Devin from Sanguisugabog. I was friends with Devin through Tyler, but they talked a lot more. And really, that was the final puzzle piece. And what happened is, while we're talking about bringing Earthburner back, the blue Devin hit up Tyler one day and goes, "Hey, what's your stepdad ever going to do with Earthburner? Because that EP from 2011 is so sick, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, bingo, this must be meant to happen. And that's what happened. He just was like, went from talking to, I got a full lineup. And then I'm like, I'm not screwing around. We're booking studio time. We got albums worth of material. Let's do it. And here we are. So I actually did the album. I financed it myself and then shopped at the labels. And that's how we wound up on M Theory Audio, released our album here and licensed it around the world and all that. So yeah, it's been great. Yeah, really happy.
Yeah, and congratulations on it again. It's fantastic, but it does beg the point though, because Broken Hope is still very relevant and will always attract new fans because it's a legacy band, and it's every bit as Broken Hope is every bit as important as all of those Floridian legends that you just mentioned. But the future, it may well be with Earthburner, and it sounds like as though your inclination might be that way. So in terms of where you redirect your energies from here, how do you think you're going to balance the two?
Well, you make a really great point. It's like with Broken Hope, we're like our label, all our albums are our first 5 albums are being re-released on Metal Blade Records, by the way. Like next year they should be coming out remastered in every format. And a couple of them are like out of print. You can't get the CDs and stuff. So we're relaunching everything. And the label is the one who calls us legacy band. We're in this legacy mode. And I guess when you're around this long, that's what happens. Like I remember when Slayer, quote unquote, retired on their farewell tour, like their management company's like, well, they're in legacy mode now, and maybe they'll come back, maybe they won't. And then sure enough, they just started doing a couple shows this summer. But that's Broken Hope. We're like in legacy mode because, some of the other guys in the band, they're married, they got kids and stuff. Yeah. And it's not like there's bands that we know that are legacy bands too, but their bread and butter is they can do sick tours, draw constantly. Your Cannibal Corpse, for example, and Obituary. They're still doing it. They're still touring. That's their livelihood. But Broken Hope, we're not at that level. Never have been. We've always been this underdog kind of level, and it's just not like that's our career. But we still perform and we still do fests, and we're writing new music and stuff. But relevant to what you're mentioning with Earthburner, I've said this to a couple journalists. It's like I'm old man Wagner, and I got 3 guys that are like 30, 31 years old, and they're super hungry and they're wanting to tour and stuff. So they really charged me up, light a fire under my ass. And I see Earthburner doing a lot more actively with whether it's touring or whatever comes our way. We would jump on that. So it's kind of like being 20 or 21 years old when Swamp Thing Gore, our first album, came out. Like I feel that, even though I'm far beyond 20 or 21 at this point, but I'm like, yeah, this is exciting, fun. I mean, I wrote the album because I have a passion for extreme metal, always have. You know what I mean? It's like, that'll never leave me. I just always want to write the heaviest riffs, have the heaviest guitar tone, and just make sick, badass music. And that's just integrated in my DNA. But being with the other guys in the band, it's really exciting. It's like they're excited. They inject this energy into me too. So enthusiasm goes a long way, if you will. And it's our first album as Earthburner. So it's really exciting. So for me, I see Earthburner being a bit more active than Broken Hope in my life,
Yeah, okay. And so it does beg the point. I think it was I don't think I know. I was at the gig. So Sarah Thungold, Tim Baker, I think it's Tim, isn't it? He's the head of Sarah Thungold. Anyway, Night Demon was the band. Tim is the singer, I think. Anyway, the point is the singer I think he had the original drummer too, an old fella there, but Night Demon with the band. Night Demon actually played before Sarah Thungold. So I think you can see where I'm headed. Can these members? I mean, you've got a very capable singer in Devon, and I know it's a bit different to Broken Hope, but I'm sure he's flexible, and we all want to keep playing, and they're young and hungry. Can you see the two bands moving?
I could see like Devin's like my stepson, and Mike, our drummer. Actually, they're so close. All three of those guys are so close in age. The thing about them is they got this old school death metal vibe, soul. They love the old school death metal, the old grind bands. And in fact, I just saw Sang Sugabog a few nights ago here in Chicago, opening up for Lorna Shore, Whitechapel, and it was sold out show. And Sang Sugabog are like a throwback to that old school sound and whatnot. And Devin, he wants to do everything he can. That guy can't stop. He'd tour every day of the year, no matter who it's with. So that said, I would, like with Earthburner, I would, I'd be happy to tour. It's really up to the guys in the band. Like Mike and I, we both come from Broken Hope. So there's a Broken Hope Earthburner tour. We'd have to, I'd be down for it. I have to see if Mike could do 2 extreme sets, And I know like at Devin, I'd say it was like, Sang Sugabog and Earthburner or something, and it would be up to him. And it's an interesting like thought because there was a festival once where we had Broken Hope. I think Orgasm were going to play. And our singer Damien's the singer of Gorgasm. And I'm like, dude, can you do both bands in one night, back to back? But he was like, oh shit, I don't know, man. That's a lot to pull off. And because he plays guitar and Gorgasm and sings, and it worked out where we didn't have to play the same night or whatever. But I'd be down for anything really,
Well, it makes sense, and it just opens up new territories, new markets for you, if you like, and you can be more nimble, and there's less airline tickets you have to pay for. So it makes on that front. If they're young, to be honest, I mean, you got to do something with your time. You might as well tour the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Just on Broken Hope, then, that's fantastic news, by the way, that you've got the re-releases coming out. Are you doing updated artwork, some new liner notes, additional photos? Has Brian got you involved in that way?
We got Brian. So I got really lucky because we had all the like master tapes from the 90s. Thankfully, there were duplicates because the actual masters that were given to Metal Blade Records back in the day, I think it was like 95. They're based in Southern California. And there's one of the most massive Southern California earthquakes of all time that destroyed everything. So this warehouse Metal Blade had got completely destroyed. So all of these master tapes gone. But thankfully, Brian Griffin, our original lead guitar player and producer, had his own master tapes. So I was able to get those from Brian. Metal Blade had been licensing our albums to all these labels for the last decade, and it got more and more where they'd sell out and want it. So Metal Blade was like, we should be just release this stuff ourselves because we got the distro around the world. We could do it right. And so I got involved because I've got a lot of original, not just that I didn't just get the tapes from Brian. I've got original artwork and sketches and photos no one's ever seen from each album era, stuff like that. So to that end, part of the mission is to re-release these first 5 albums called, 90s era Broken Hope, right? Yep. So remastered. I think we might do a mixed tweak on Swamp and Gore, and then have each album have bonus tracks. So like Swamp and Gore, I think is going to have 4 like pre-production demo songs from Swamped. And then the other albums have different, they'll all have bonus tracks in one form or another, whether they're remix, select tracks, or something else. And then artwork wise, like Grotesque Blessings, I've got something in the works for alternate cover.
Mhm.
That album artwork by Wes Ben Scoter, the guy who did Loathing and Repulsive Conception and Omen of Disease and Mutilated Assimilated. So I'm like, I want you to do an alternate cover for Grotesque Blessings. I know a lot of people love that album, but me, that album for me is a weird one. And also, I thought the cover artwork, not to diss the artist, but I think we could have done better. So that's why, if we're going to do this, let's do something special and have a cover by Wes Ben Scoter, because he never did the fifth album, Grotesque Blessings. So, but that's kind of the gist of what's in store for the re-releases. Plus, some of the albums have never been re-released on vinyl. Certain licensed, like record labels that license those albums, release limited edition vinyl. I've never seen it. So this time it's like everything will be CD, multicolored vinyl, different editions, all that cool stuff. So it's a big project. It's a fun project, and I'm glad it's happening. It's pretty cool.
What in your view, what's considered the so I'll say Morbid Angel have, say, Covenant, for example. So Carcass might have Putrefaction. You know, I'm talking about these apex albums, these albums that people love. In your view, which is that album for Broken Hope?
For me personally, it's I'd say Balls of Repugnance is just really near and dear to my heart, and it was a complete departure right after our debut. It was just more pissed off and brutal, and I don't know, faster, meaner, angrier, and it was a special time in my life, and I really love that album. I think that turned a lot of things around for the band. And then the album Loathing really, I feel, was a very significant album in our discography. That was like when we were really consistent with releasing album after album. And Repulsive Conception, I love that album, but standout, meaningful, game-changing albums, at least, it's hard, Andrew, to say, without sounding biased, because I'm in the band, right? But like for me, I think Bowels of Repugnance, Loathing, to skip ahead to 2017, Mutilated Assimilated. Those are different albums. Of course, Bowels and Loathing are from the Thigh Check era. Mutilated's Damian Lesky on vocals, but I feel by 2017, and we had Omen of Disease in 2013, but I think it was sort of like that 2012 to 2017 Broken Hope. In that last album, we have been touring so much and such a tight unit. It's like we were that band we were in the 90s, May Joe and Ryan rest in peace, but it was like, as a founding father of Broken Hope, that album was like for me, just like, yeah, that killed. So that's it. Those three for me are like what I think are game changers. I'm talking about the reception we got, turning heads as well, and just making an impact, That's me. You could ask someone off the street, Andrew, in Brisbane, that's, big Broken Hope fan. They might say, oh, Grotesque Blessings is the shit. That's the best goddamn thing they ever did. You know, I hear that myself. You know, but I got my favorites, and there's numerous reasons why. And again, relevant to why those stand out. There's reasons why. You know, I just remember from this perspective how those albums changed our trajectory and bands and all kinds of stuff. You know, yeah.
Have you? So yeah, I hear. Yeah, so Morbid Angel did the Covenant thing where they played it from start to finish. I'm fairly certain I'm correct in saying that Obituary had done Cause of Death. So you see where I'm headed. The reason I asked the question is there's this thing at the moment where bands play albums from start to finish, and I love it. I've got to say, as an old school fan, I think it's fantastic.
Right.
So have you been approached to do something like that?
I know we were approached to do Loathing once in its entirety, but that's been about it. And Swamp Thing Gore too. Some fest wanted us to do that whole album, but it didn't work out. But tell you, the album I would love to play would be Balls of Repugnance, start to finish.
Yeah, that'd be the pick, wouldn't it?
I'd like to do that
from a marketing perspective.
And I'll tell you this, as a fan though, like I loved it when Slayer played Rain and Blood on the Still Raining tour, start to finish, back when Jeff Hanneman was still in the band.
Yeah.
It was incredible. And then one time, Metallica's Ride the Lightning is why I wanted to become a metal guitar player at like age 14 or 15. And they did this festival called Orion. They did two of them, one year, one another year, and they never did it again. This is probably circa 2011, 2012, maybe.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah.
Might be off. But they played Ride the Lightning in its entirety, but they played it backwards from the last track to the first track. But I like filmed the whole fucking thing on my phone because I'm like, I'll never see this again. And that album changed my life. And also, during COVID, if I'm not mistaken, I swear it was either during COVID or not too long ago, Obituary did Slowly Rot. I don't like a live stream.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite death metal albums. So as a fan, I love that shit. I think it's cool. So I'd be down to do it with Broken Hope, you know, just depends on the album, I guess, you know. It ain't gonna be Grotesque Blessings, I can tell you that.
Yeah,
the offer.
Yeah, I figured that. There were some challenges with that album, given it was Joe's last one. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. He did a great job on the album, totally dedicated, worked his ass off. But like right after vocals were done, the album's coming out, we're getting ready to tour, he just decided, I don't want to tour anymore, and I'm out. It was like the week we were leaving for tour. So we had to get a replacement like that, you know. So that was kind of the beginning of my, like, this sucks. I don't want to do, you know, it's like Brian Griffin and me. We had guys filling in on drums, vocals, and bass. And I was just like, you know, this ain't the Jeremy Wagner band, you know, it's called Broken Hope. I want guys that are passionate about what they're doing. And when you're in a band, I don't know if you've ever been in a band, Andrew, but
plenty.
Every band ain't it's hard. Different personality. It's hard to find chemistry. Even in Broken Hope, I mean, we were young, 20-year-olds in the 90s, and we didn't know everything, and we had our fights and disagreements and all kinds of shit, you know, and just delusions of grandeur with some people and stuff. So, you know, I don't fault Joe for quitting or at the time and leaving, but I wish he had done it a different way. And me, being like the show must go on, I'm just like, no, we'll get someone to fill in and we're going to keep touring and support the album. But yeah, after a couple of years of that, man, that's when I'm like, this sucks. This ain't Broken Hope to me. I don't want to do it until we have a lineup that's like really solid and we all want the same thing and we get along. And took 10 years, but we did come back, so,
But
but that's what's great about Earthburner too.
But Jeremy, that's a compelling point. I've got to just interrupt. That's a really compelling point there you make about Broken Hope, because in the same way that Incantation is John's band, this is your. As a fan, I look at it, well, as long as Jeremy's doing Broken Hope, that's good enough for me, to be quite honest with you. And the same way that, I mean, when John came down here with Incantation, he had Dan from Morbid Angel in the band, for God's sakes. I mean, these are tremendous musicians. Dan's a great musician, great bloke. So you feel differently. You actually feel that Broken Hope needs to be a collective.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I've had, believe me, there's been hardcore fans make over, when we came back in 2012 till now, to this day, there'll be someone making a shitty comment on a post like, no Joe, no Broken Hope. Well, sorry that Joe's dead, but I'm still alive and I'm not stopping. And I always had written most of the music, and I wrote pretty much all the lyrics to this day. I have a name that came up with the name for the band from a poem I wrote in high school, Broken Hope, So my attitude is, when I play and do stuff, I have Joe with me in spirit and Ryan, and it was the three of us who formed the band. And I'm the last original guy of the three that's alive. And I'm not trying to sound like an arrogant rock star asshole or anything, but I wrote the lion's share of the music and the lyrics straight up. It's right in the fucking credits of every album. So my attitude is, Joe and Ryan and whoever else are with me in spirit, but I'm on a stage or on an album still conveying Broken Hope's sound in words. But again, I'm not Yngwie Malmsteen, and the name ain't called Jeremy Wagner.
Yeah.
I can't do this without the right guys in the band. So I've got Damian Lesky, and we got Matt Schlock on lead guitar, who's super sick. We got Mike Michek on drums, and Diego Soria, our bass player, who used to be in Disgorge. And it's just great, man. It's such a great lineup, and I couldn't do it without them, any of those guys. So they're very respectful to what Broken Hope means as a band, a sound, an attitude. You know what I mean? That's the way I can explain it. But my attitude is, I'm talking to you here in the States on October 24th, and I'm 54, and I love Broken Hope music and extreme metal and Earthburner, of course. And my attitude is, I'm alive. I'm alive, man. And I'm proud of the music I made with Broken Hope, and I want to play. And people might think this guy is corny or mushy or something, but when I play those old Broken Hope songs, that keeps Joe and Ryan's spirit alive. You know what I mean? It's like one of my favorite band of all time. I'll give you this analogy. My favorite band of all time, any genre. I'm talking metal, jazz, rock, anything. My favorite band of all time is 1970s era Lynyrd Skynyrd. Okay. Right. And I'm like, I get it when fans are like, no Joe, no Broken Hope, because Ronnie Van Zant of Skynyrd died in a plane crash in 1977. But they came back with his brother on vocals and still had some original members like Gary Rosington, who unfortunately recently died this last. But I just saw them in August, and They were great. There's a Van Zant on stage singing, and you know they paid tribute to that music that everyone knows from that original lineup. You know, and I as a fan, I will be honest, big of a fan of '70s era Skinner. When I went to see him, I'm like, oh, you know, we'll see how this goes. You know, that, you know, I'm partial to '70s era Skinner. There's people partial to '90s era Broken Hope, you know, but I'm like, fuck, these guys are good. And I really felt like, oh, that was Skinner's spirit was there. So,
Okay.
so that's, I don't know, man. I always digress and give a long explanation of shit, but that's kind of my analogy and where my place in the universe is with Broken Hope, if any of that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. Yeah, yeah. Hey, look, I've got to ask you. You know that tour with Deicide it was more than a few years ago. But what was no doubt you learned a lot. But looking back, it's a few years now, 5, 6, 7 years or whatever it is now. What was the
2013. So it was
2013 or longer?
already
So
been 11 years. Yeah.
yeah, 11 years. Yeah. You know, when you reflect on that though, what is the? I know there's lots of things you take away, but what's the most prominent thing you take away from that experience?
From the North American tour.
Yeah, mainly the media reaction, because you know what Blabbermouth is like these days, and or has been for a long time, 25 years or something. You know, it's not a new thing.
Well, you know, looking back, all right, here, no one's asked me about this in a long time. I saw your show, probably the first time I've talked about this in years, but basically, you know, we're on tour at the Deicide. I've been friends with Glenn and Steve for years. We toured with them in '95. And what it boiled down to is we got kicked off the tour over petty bullshit that had nothing to do with me or the band, period. And I got a problem with bullies, and I felt bullied and really fucking pissed off. And there were shit going back and forth the night we were kicked off, and I put a statement out, called them out, and we were on the same record label, and they put out a thing, and then our record label had us apologize. And the thing about me is that if I apologize to someone and they apologize to me, I take that seriously and like to move on. So after all that death metal drama, as the media back then called it, and public apologies were exchanged, I was like, everything's cool. And I think a couple of years went by, we were on a fest with those guys and talked to Glenn and hadn't seen him, and we took a picture together. And to be clear, I don't have to tell you, but look, we all know Glenn Benton there's only one Glenn Benton, and he's a very, very special brand. But the thing about Glenn is I always liked him. He's one of the funniest fucking guys to this day I've ever met. He has a sense of humor that I love, and I got nothing against him. But unfortunately, despite us kissing and making up, he still seems to have a problem with me and Broken Hope. So I haven't been asked about it in a while, but I'm just telling you the truth. I try to roll as, you know, like I said, either you kiss and make up and really mean it, and, you know, life is short. And I just like to fucking be cool with everybody, you know? So I feel, I wish that hadn't happened the way it did, but you get as nice as nice as I try to be to everyone and try to keep the peace. I also don't like to take shit from people. And if you get into a scrap and you do fucking shake hands or hug it out, my attitude is we're friends again. But some other people don't want to be friends. They still want to, whatever, have a chip on their shoulder. I mean, I'm fucking blocked on Deicide's, Glenn Bennett's pages for whatever fucking reason. So telling you here first, no one's asked me about it. I don't mention this to make new drama, because my bottom line is I got nothing against Glenn or Deicide. Of the band, I still laugh at some shit I think about that Glenn and I did and stuff on tour. And, you know, I love Steve Ashim. He's a sick drummer, and he's always been cool as fuck. So me, I don't have any problem with them. Whatever Glenn doesn't like about me or the band or whatever, that's on him. You know, that's not how I roll, you know.
Well, that's
and a fucking cup of coffee right now if he was here, but you know, can't force people to be your friends either, you know. So what are you gonna do?
No, he's a very complicated man, and he's a legend, no doubt. And I've interviewed him, but look, I also was friendly with Ralph as well, and Ralph told me some stuff, and also I know some people that have had a lot to do with Deicide will never have anything to do with him again. So they're not saying that about you; they're saying it about Glenn. And another thing too is when I interviewed him, I tend to talk politics and social issues quite a bit on the show, and he wouldn't answer. And that told me a lot about where he was at. He said politics is for arsehole. My question wasn't about politics. It was about the social situation with identity politics and all of the stuff that we deal with in this day and age. And he wouldn't answer the question. And I thought that was very telling about what he was prepared to do and how he was prepared to present himself publicly, because people would love to hear Glenn's perspective on politics, but he evidently doesn't have an informed view. So he probably doesn't do a lot of reading either, is what my interpretation of it was. And he's not curious about what's going on in the world is another thing, whereas I know you are. So yeah, and I think, you know, Ralph told me everything that Ralph actually being in the fucking band told me everything I needed to know. And to be honest, mate, what he said to me was very similar to what you just said.
Yeah, Ralph. Yeah, Ralph. I talked to Ralph before he died and stuff, and yeah, it's unfortunate, and it all boils down to petty shit too. Like back in whether it's 2013 to why we had that fucking that blow up. I mean, it was over petty shit, and I said it all in my statement very clearly. This is what happened. We didn't do anything wrong. We got kicked off tour because of, we're using our back line, and our bass player didn't like Glenn touching the fucking knobs and fucking with his head. There was supposed to be an agreement, so he took the head off stage. Glenn had his own head, but because we took our head off, or our bass player did specifically, that guy's kicked off tour. Not to mention a fan got his throat cut ear to ear during our show, and we posted about it, and that was part of whatever problem we did, posted about it too. It's just stupid as shit. No reason for it. Treating us and kicking us off. So yeah, I had a problem with fucking that. So I said something, but again, talking about it, like I wish it didn't happen. I don't want to go there, because I really liked Glenn at the time. And again, when we played later, we publicly apologized. I'm being redundant telling this story again, but we played a festival, Florida Metal Fest, and we had seen each other since then. A couple of years had gone by. We talked, we hugged, we took a picture together, but then after that, it was like all of a sudden I'm blocked on social media, and what's Terry Butler obituary? He had that
Left to Die.
Left to Die. We're doing a tour with Deicide and some other bands, and Terry's a friend of mine. He asked, "Do you mind?" He was really respectful. Like, "Do you mind if Mike fills in on drums?" My drummer from Broken Hope, an Earthburner. I'm like, yeah, I'm cool with it. You don't have to come to me. Mike wants to do it for more power to it. Fucking left to die is great. You're my friend, and fucking I don't know if this is going to be on your show or off the record, but Glenn fucking said no. No one from Broken Hope is on this tour. No member. So they had to get another drummer left to die, and we heard all about it. That was just like a year or two ago. So I don't know, man. It's just shitty. I don't get it.
It's just a shame. I mean, look,
I got no problem with when, he's got a problem with me and my band, I guess, still. But it is what it is. What are you going to do,
But you made the point earlier, like, I'm 46, you're 54. Okay. Does anything really surprise you in this day and age?
No. Fuck no. No, really. It's funny you say that because it's really hard to find anything that surprises me nowadays, Yeah. Yeah.
So
it took me decades to not give a fuck, to actually have the tools to not care, being in a band and, I write full time. I'm a published author. That's like my main gig. You better have a thick skin because you're going to get shitty reviews. People will hate your shit or whatever. You can't take it personally. And I learned that early on. But what I always took personally was like personal attacks on me, and shit like that. Because I try to be an antidote. Like I say this, 99% of the world are assholes. I want to be the 1% positive antidote while I'm alive, right? But I used to take it really personally when people personally attack my character or whatever. And I had to work through that and get to this point where in my 50s where I got those tools not to give a fuck. And that a lot of people that, I don't know, maybe they're not being honest, but I met a lot of people like who didn't give a fuck. Like our old singer, Joe Thychek. Yeah, that guy was straight up like out of the wound, like, fuck the world. I don't give a shit about anybody or what anyone thinks, where I used to be the opposite. Like, oh, I want people to like me or, oh, why is that person being a dick to me or whatever, like you used to really give a shit about that. But I don't care what people think anymore. I roll the way I am now and try to be cool to everybody. And if you got a problem with that, that's your problem. Whatever problem you have and shit you want to say about me, that's your problem, not mine. That's what I had to learn, though. You know what I mean? And to that end, yes, nothing really surprises me anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Glenn may lack some self-control too in the way that he talks to the media and the way that he reflects on how his comments are going to then cause reactions, if you like, in the media, because that's the world we live in these days. But something else about you don't strike me as someone who's done your brain in by drinking a lot or doing smoking and doing drugs and all that sort of stuff. You strike me as someone who's got a lot of self-awareness and therefore you're in control of your consciousness.
Yeah. I've fortunately never been hung up with substance abuse problems or, I've certainly been irresponsible when I was younger, but I always just wanted to make a mark in life and my own way, in a good way, cool way, a way artistically that other people could enjoy too. And I did that with music and books, I think. And I'm still doing it. And then just forget the art, just being a human, man. A good person. That's me. That's what I want to be known as. So if I leave here tomorrow, will you still remember me? I want people to remember Jeremy Wagner is a nice fucking guy.
Yeah. Well, I think that'll happen. But look, you do have a considerable legacy beyond the beyond the music too, because I'm a writer too. I've got books out there, and I ghostwrite biographies as well. Quite a while ago. We've still got to finish it, but I just wrote a ghostwriter biography for a Norwegian black metal guitarist. So I'm trying to do a lot more of that sort of stuff, but it's just getting people to agree to go on that journey, which can be quite challenging, as you can appreciate being a writer.
Well, I can tell you this. I've done the same thing, my friend. I primarily have written dark fiction, but I wrote a memoir for a famous chef. Look him up, Google a guy named Chef Curtis Duffy, Duffy. I wrote his memoir, and it's coming out next summer. And and it was like I only do shit that I'm into, and Curtis Duffy is a good friend of mine. But when I learned his life story, it was like a writer friend of mine summed it up best. Curtis Duffy's life in that memoir I wrote for him as Sons of Anarchy meets Anthony Bourdain Kitchen Confidential. He was raised in a Hell's Angels house, basically biker house. His dad was leader of a bike gang and all this stuff. And Curtis became this world famous chef, 3 Michelin star chef over and over again. And that was a hell of a cool book to write. So so you talking about doing that same kind of thing, I encourage, it's really cool to do a store, go down in someone's footsteps who's had a journey none of us could ever imagine having. Yeah. That's what the appeal was for Curtis Duffy. I also have a production company that has 2 documentaries that are almost done, and I wrote those and produced them, and they couldn't be farther apart. One is also about Chef Curtis Duffy. There's a documentary on him that came out in 2015 called For Grace. I wrote and produced the sequel to that. It's called Forever, because that's the name of his new restaurant. But I also have a documentary I wrote and produced on probably the most famous male porn star of all time, Peter North. He's never done a documentary or anything. So I did that, and we just interviewed Jenna Jameson. Have you ever heard of her? Yeah. And same thing. It appealed to me because it's just a hell of a story. Small town boy from Halifax, Nova Scotia, wants to be a Hollywood movie star and goes there, but his life takes a totally different trajectory, So I'm always interested in those human journeys like that.
Well, there you have it, a conversation, a long-awaited chat with the great Jeremy Wagner from Broken Hope and Earthburner. Fantastic stuff. I look forward to talking to him again in the future sometime. All right, there are many more chats just like that one with Jeremy over at scarsandguitars.com, and I mentioned Lee Harrison up the top. I may have another conversation lined up with him in the near future, but there is already one posted here on YouTube if you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, and on the podcast apps as well. So don't delay. Check out that one as well as all the other conversations at scarsandguitars.com. So many featuring members of bands such as Death, Testament, Morbid Angel, Cradle of Filth, Emperor, Immortal, all the leading lights of extreme metal. Megadeth, well, they're thrash, but my point is that if you like extreme metal, you like all of these bands, and chances are I've had a conversation with a member of your favourite band. That's it from me. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I'm the host of Scars and Guitars. Until the next one, it's a goodbye for now.